mortar or bricks. It's built with people. The Old Testament was built, it was a place. In the New Testament, it's a people. And so one of the things that we want to do is be co-laborers with God in the kind of house that he's wanting to build in networks, the community of networks. And so we are going to be doing a series on this, and we'll be telling you a little bit more about it. Today, I want to talk about building heaven's dream house in Laguna Beach. I spoke on dreams, being a dreamer, about 2 months ago, and it was something that resonated, I know, with a lot of us. And I believe it's a theme that we need to continue to see ourselves as dreamers. I took it to Brazil and spoke there, and it was a very powerful time we had there, because a lot of times the journey shuts the dreamer down in us. God made us to be dreamers, and what I mean by dreamers, it means that we're sharing something of heaven's vision that's made in God's image. He wants to share some of his heart, and he wants to be able to use us here on earth to carry out some of his wishes. And when we receive the dreams from God, then we become dreamers, and this becomes our destiny. And so I want to just review a little bit, and then I want to talk about building a dream house in Laguna Beach. Firstly, our God is a dreamer, and he has dreams for his people on earth. He shares his dreams with people. These dreams, as I said, are our destinies. I call it now the yellow brick road. When we're on the yellow brick road, you know, it's a good thing. And to be on the journey, knowing our purpose to some extent, at least currently, to be able to say, this is what I'm to be about, this is what I'm to do, who I am and what I'm to do, those are the priorities of life that we are to discover in our relationship with God. So these dreams are our destinies, what we are made for, what will fulfill us, satisfy us, make us fruitful here on earth. In Ephesians, Apostle Paul said this. I want to interject some scriptures today, a little bit more than maybe normal, so that you can get an understanding that this is really God's will and intention. This is what Paul says. We are God's workmanship, every one of us. God made us. We're God's workmanship, created in Christ Jesus, to do good works. And I put next to that dreams. See, good works, you know, dreams are come true. We put feet to our dreams, and they become good works for all to benefit from and see. So we're created to do good works which God prepared in advance for us to do. These dreams are not just for us. We are to call out other dreamers. We will make many people happy as they will find their God, their destiny, as Ben said, their voice, do what they are made for, and invite many who, again, here's a rock and roll lyric, who still haven't found what they're looking for. Okay? And so this is part, as I said here, this is part of God's plan, not only for us to be awakened, ignited as dreamers, and to put feet to our dreams, to do our dreams, but to be able then to help others. See, the very nature, whatever God gives Chad as a dream, and Chad says yes and starts to do it, God's intention is not just to fulfill Chad and him, my dream comes true. The dream is for others to benefit from. So the very thing God gives us to do here on earth, the purpose, the way of helping others, God's wanting to love the world through his people, doing a partnership with heaven. And as we do that, then other people come into the good provision of the thing that God has planned. And then people benefit from that. And then people see, there's a good God. He's good, he's kind, he loves me. And then they can get a relationship. And when they get a relationship with God, they get awakened. Then the dreamer in them gets awakened. And so on, and so on, and so on, and so on. It's what's interesting about Laguna Beach, if you think about it, this is really a community of dreamers. many people are here in Laguna Beach and it's a dream come true. I get to live in Laguna Beach. For me it is. It's like, oh my goodness. Such a beautiful, beautiful city. Amazing city. People from all over the world come to Laguna Beach. A couple of months you'll hear languages on the streets all over the place. Because the world comes to Laguna Beach because it's beautiful. And so there's a lot of dreamers here in Laguna Beach. It started as an artist colony in the 30s. And there's many musicians here. Many creative people that have made their home here, that are frequent here. And so it really, the language of being a dreamer fits here. Because there's a lot of people that have dreams and they're trying to do their dreams. But one of the things we've come to learn is doing our dreams separated from God really causes us to be in a very restricted way. We can't really fulfill that dream the way God intended, because the connection with heaven, with God Himself, enables us to do the dream, to really understand the dream in the bigger dimension of things. See, left by ourselves, outside the relationship with God, we're going to have dreams, but they're going to be more temporal dreams. They're going to be dreams that are going to be, maybe good for me, good for some others, but it's going to be very limited, and it's not going to have the thumbprint of heaven. It's not going to have the love of heaven, and it's not going to have the eternal purpose of heaven. And so it's very important that, again, we become a community here, networks of dreamers. And that's what we talked about a couple months ago. When we don't have a vision or a dream, it's interesting. The book of Proverbs says, without a vision, without a dream, the people perish. And then it also says in Proverbs that hope deferred, in other words, no vision, no dream, doing life without vision, dream, makes the heart sick, it says. But a dream fulfilled, it says, what's it? A dream fulfilled, but a longing or a dream fulfilled is the tree of life. Isn't that beautiful? Hope deferred makes the heart sick. But a longing or a dream fulfilled is like a tree of life. It's a beautiful imagery. And there are times in your life and my life we can maybe remember, even as Christians, we're about our vision. Right now, I'm kind of going on about 22 cylinders right now. I'm peaking right now inside. It's easy for me to go to work. It's easy for me to put my pants up in the morning and just get up. I'm doing 16, 14-hour days, a number of days. It's just like, because I'm doing something that is exhilarating. I'm 59 years old, but I feel about 29 right now, and it's amazing. It's amazing, and so we get to do this together, and we get to influence others to ignite the dreamer, awaken the dreamer, do what God made you to do. And I hope that'll be a hallmark of our community, that whether it be teenagers or children, every generation, that we're awakening people, that God is awakening people through our own lives to say, you know what, there's a great, great purpose for living, and you need to discover that. You need to discover who you are in relationship with God, and you need to discover Him, and you need to discover what you were made for, and utilize all your gifts so that, again, you could do it. And it's such a beautiful thing. Before I forget, I want to plug next Sunday, Michael, we're helping Michael to create a business for himself. And he's the third greeter in Laguna Beach. And we're going to call it Laguna Beach Greeters Tour. So next Sunday at 1 o'clock after our gathering here, you want to get something to lunch. We're going to meet at the living room, our office in town at 1 o'clock, and Michael's going to take us on a mock tour, first tour. So this is going to be history. And the intention is by the springtime, this thing's going to be, again, a tour in place, maybe a couple times a day. Michael will make some significant money and come out of being homeless, have his own place, and it's going to be a good story. And Michael will have a unique way of doing a tour that you'll see next week. So feel free to come next week, and at 1 o'clock we'll be meeting at the living room. And so again, here's a dreamer, Michael, and now he's come into a relationship with God and a community of God, and something's ignited in him. We'll have him speak sometime. Something that has been awakened. And I've spent many hours with Michael over the last year, and in the last month particularly, Karen and I have just really gotten to a very close relationship and friendship. But we believe in Michael, and we want to call out that gift in Michael, the gift of Michael. Michael is a gift, and he's a gift to the city. And all the things that God put in Michael are so unique, and now we embrace those things, as Ben was just saying. We embrace the various aspects of being made in God's image and being God's workmanship. And we have a unique voice, a unique personality, unique gifting. And God wants to showcase us. He wants to display us, because we're his workmanship. But see, when we stay connected with God, then we get to know who we are and what we're to do. We get to operate then and do our passions, utilize our gifts. And in so doing, we're helping a lot of people. And a lot of people are watching us. More than you know. More than you know. A lot of people are watching us. The reputation we have in the city is growing and growing and growing and growing. And a lot of people are watching us. A lot of people are looking and talking about us in a good way, because we're being a real people of God in the city, and we've begun to do a lot of good works and help a lot of people, and so we're doing our dreams, and you know what? That's attractive. It's very, very attractive, because we're made for that. And there's a lot of people, even in our city and all over the world, they're doing good works. But there's another dimension of doing good works. See, humanity is not bad. Humanity is God's people made in his image. Yes, there's a dark side we all have to deal with, and we're influenced by. And some people kind of embrace that more and allow darkness to rule and reign. But for the most part, God's people here on earth, God's creation, I'll say, people have good hearts. They want to see good things happen. But when we have a relationship with God, it takes it to a whole nother level. It takes it to a whole nother dimension and a whole nother scope. And that's what we have the advantage about. People who are not having a relationship with God, even about doing good works, they still haven't found what they're looking for. They still haven't found what they're looking for. So we have a friend who was here a couple of weeks ago, and he approached me and said, I want to go on a mission trip with you. One who is a Christian, but he's my dear friend. And he says, I want to go on a mission trip with you. I want to do good works with you in the city. We're creating something now that we're going to partner together and work in the city. That's a dream of mine. Yes, I like to hang out with you guys, Christians, and do things together, but I want to hang out with people of all kinds in the city and say, let's do some good works together. And then when they see us doing the good works, they're going to see something of God in us. And that's going to help them to negotiate the next step of building a friendship and a relationship with God. They've not been able to see that or know what that even looks like, maybe in a tasteful way. And that's our mission. That's our mission. We're going to call the dreamers out, and we're going to be and say, let's do some good things together. Rebecca is working on calling out some of the artists and the creative people. We're calling them out. Calling people out, because it's connecting with what God made them and what is their unique expression. And they need to be called out. They need to be given permission to do it. And when they get connected to God, something awakens. And then God himself gives his permission in such a unique way. And then they say, wow, now So helping people do their dreams is a big part of doing God's work. This dream destiny is for individuals as well as groups, communities of people. And so, you and I individually, we have dreams that God is giving to us and has given to us, but together, one of my jobs is to help us corporately to say, you know what, this is a dream house. I want to help you individually with your dreams. Remember we talked about a community, Networks Laguna Beach, a community of dreamers. Dreamers welcome. Dreamers are welcome. And that's one of the shingles I hope will be outside of all our gathering. The dreamers are welcome. And that people would come and they would discover, a God who really has given me my dreams, and now I know it. See, I tell the artists at the Sawdust in the summer, I said, God gave you your dreams. I don't know if you know that or not. God gave you your gift to do art, your passion to do art. But when you connect with the God who gave you that, it's really going to take on a whole nother dimension. And it's going to be really, really fulfilling. But when you just, the songwriters, the musicians, God gave them their song, their desire to play. But guess what? If they don't know God, they're missing something. You see? So what we need to do is connect with the people in the city. With God's help, we see the dreamer, in the songwriter, in the artist, in the writer, in the creative person, and the person who cares for God's nature, His creation, whatever it is. We see it, we connect with it, and then we try to make friendship, and then we try to show people. When we connect with a God who is love, the one who gave you the gift, it'll change everything. And so that's some of our tasks. Can you open the door? So, this whole thing of building a dream house in Laguna Beach. These scriptures are amazing. And this is the Message version. And I love this so much. As you know, the Lord has really spoken to me about Laguna Beach being a neighborhood. The downtown area where our office is, the Lord spoke that to me and said, it's become a neighborhood now. And so I treat it as a neighborhood. I feel like I'm a neighborhood parish. It's my parish, and I'm a priest of the neighborhood. And Father Don. And so, I treat it that way, and I just treat people like they're my people, whether they want to be or not. I'm your pastor whether you know it or not. Whether you want me or not. I'm going to treat you. I'm going to love you. I'm going to be your friend. And you know what? It's going to be good. And it has been good. Hundreds of new friends. And it's real good. But that's what Jesus did when He came. He came into the neighborhood. The U2 song, When Love Comes to Town. See, love came to town in the person of Jesus. Love has come to town now in us. If we choose to be in that mission and believe that this is heaven's dream, that Networks community is a people of God that has come to town to love people, and in so doing we reveal God to people in the city. So listen to these scriptures. Can it be that God would actually move into the neighborhood? Think about that. Can it be? Can it be? And then it says here at the end of the New Testament, book of Revelation, look, God has moved into the neighborhood, into Laguna Beach, making His house with men and women. They're His people, and He's their God. It's begun. It's begun. And it's us. And God is wanting to build a dream house in Laguna Beach, a community of people. As Rebecca said last week, I really liked that when she prayed, a living net. A living net. Ever increasing, enlarging net that is going to just have a purpose of just embracing people and catching people and keeping people into a community of love, that people are going to get activated and awakened, become dreamers again, and dream big with God's help and with the community's encouragement. We're going to help each other to dream, to do the thing that God made us to do. And as we do that, the news will get out. people will see God has moved into the neighborhood. People networks. And I believe that with all my heart, that's begun, and this is our mission. It's a beautiful, beautiful mission, and everybody gets to play. We're going to talk about that more next week. See, I want to do a little bit more of a biblical kind of teaching today. How this goes about, and I'll show you through the scripture. Firstly, God calls and commissions leaders. And John Wimber, the founder of our Vineyard movement, used to say God calls a leader and then downloads into the leader a dream, a vision, and it becomes so pleasurable to the leader. It becomes their consuming fire, their passion to do this thing, because again, God gives us something that we are made for, and then it becomes this is what I have to do. God calls a leader. The leader gets impassioned, awakened to do it, empowered to do it by God, and then all of a sudden God brings people all around. People who've been waiting for this. And it's like, now it's not just the leader's vision, it's our vision. And so I want to show you this here in the scriptures. Abraham, this talks about in Hebrews 11, and the Lord's really spoken this to Karen and I as well. By faith, Abraham, when called to go to the place he would later receive as an inheritance, obeyed and went, even though he did not know where he was going. By faith, he made his home in the promised land like a stranger in a foreign country. He lived in tents, for he was looking forward to the city with foundations. Listen to this, whose architect and builder is God. See, Laguna Beach Networks is not a good idea. It's a God idea. Laguna Beach Networks is not like, let me and a few people, let's design this thing. When I first started, the Lord gave me a picture of a big whiteboard. He said, I've taught you a lot about church and church planting. I've been in the ministry since 1976, but he said, we're going to do it different here. He said, stay close and I'll show you how we're going to do it. So I do know what we're doing, and yet I don't know what we're doing in the big picture. And you know what? That's okay.
Amen.
Yeah, it's an adventure. And it's exciting. And you know what? I've never been more out of control in my life than I am now, but it feels okay. It used to be real scary to be out of control and not have some of those security factors. But we're negotiating it because God is our security, and we know that we're doing the right thing. And as we do the right thing, then it becomes more and more of a assurance. You're on the yellow brick road. You're doing the right thing, and I'm with you. And I'm going to back you. And so, that's what we see, the beautiful story of Abraham. Here's Moses, encountered by God at the burning bush. All of a sudden he's 40 years a shepherd. And all of a sudden he sees on the corner of his eye, he sees this thing. Burning bush. I keep seeing that thing. It's not going out. And so all of a sudden he leaves the sheep and he goes. And it was a divine setup. He goes to the burning bush and all of a sudden he gets ignited. He gets ignited as an encounter. He meets God. And God touches him. And God calls him by name and says, Moses, here's your purpose. And says, this is what I need you to do. And then he was called by God. He said, go and deliver my people from slavery and bring them to me via the promised land. And he did it. And he built something very special called the tabernacle, which was a place where God would meet his people. Here's the other one, David. And we're going to read the whole 2 Samuel in a minute. But here's David. God put in David's heart to build a house for him. And David built the temple. He started it, and then obviously Solomon finished it. But David was the one who God put that in his heart to build a house for himself. Nehemiah, God calls him to rebuild God's house. We talked about that in the summer if you were with us. We went through the whole summer looking at the study of Nehemiah, and we'll bring that up in the next weeks to come, because the Nehemiah model of ministry, of building, is the one that I embrace for us, because everybody gets to play, everybody gets to use their gifts. There's teams, team leaders, there's discipling going on. It has all the things that I think are very important in the way of everyone utilizing their. Called him to rebuild the walls of God's house. When we were not knowing that we were on our way to Laguna Beach, but we had left the Anaheim Vineyard for 8 years being there, and we didn't know what the next step was. But just prior to leaving there, I heard the word as clear as I've ever heard anything in my life from God, and he said, "What's coming is what you've waited for all your life." And I said, "Oh my goodness." And it was the tone of the Father's heart. And it was just like, what's coming is what you waited for all your life. And I tell you, that's what I say a couple of times a week. This is what I waited for all my life. To be so visible and expressive and free, to be able to love, and to be able to be as generous as I can, to be able to love people and invite people into God's best for them, to be able to just do what we're doing. You know, when I go do the rock and roll show every Thursday, I record it. I'm doing my passion. I love rock and roll. And so here I am relating to 20-year-olds. You know, Michael's there. Rebecca came in this week, and we're in the studio, and there's 20-year-olds around us, you know. And I know I'm being a pastor to the Laguna Beach via the rock and roll show. And this week I talked about Grace, the song by U2. And you know, so I'm trying to use me as a model to say, you know, this is for you too. Together we can do this, but also individually. You get to be a dreamer. You get to be part of a community of dreamers. We get to call other dreamers who are disconnected from heaven to connect with heaven. And so doing, then we become a visible expression of God here on earth. God's dream house is his people. God's dream house is his people. His community. I don't know if we'll ever have our own building. I don't know whatever God has. You know, I think we are in tents. Mozambique is a tent. As Abraham said, he dwelt in tents. That doesn't bother me. You know, it's just got to be functional for us. It just serves a purpose. A couple of weeks we're going to have Kristen and Rebecca share about children, teen ministry, and we need to have all those kinds of things. We're going to need room for that, and God will give us that as well. But here we are. And so this last point is this: God just doesn't call a leader because God doesn't just work that way. But his economy is he finds a catalytical person, called person, someone who that's part of their destiny. And then all of a sudden God calls us all together to build together. And supernaturally we find each other. It's amazing. Carl lived in Long Island, a half hour from where I grew up, and we never knew each other in New York. We found each other here in Southern California. And here he is in Laguna Beach. And then God calls us, so here we are all working together. Each one of us have different stories like that. When I met Chad, he used to be here in Laguna Beach as a youth pastor. And the first time I met him, someone brought him to one of our early groups, and I had a vision of me extending my hand to Chad like this, and he was in the desert, a hard journey, and I know what that was like. But here I was on an oasis and extending my hand to Chad, and Chad he lives with us, and he's my spiritual son, and I'm proud of that. And so each one of us, God has given us nice stories of how we're getting acquainted, how we're finding each other, and there's more people. The Lord keeps showing me that there's lots of people en route to find us, and they don't even know it. They don't even know it that they're en route, but God is at work, and He's going to bring people to us, and we're going to be able to just love the people that God brings to us, and we're going to serve them in the way of helping them to do their dreams. In so doing, God will have that person as a living stone, and they'll be able to do what God's called them to do individually and then together. Called to be me, and called to build with my gifts. And so that's what we're going to be focusing on in the next number of weeks. is how are we going to build together? How are you, and I put this here before because this is amazing to me, we're both the building material and the builders. See, in the New Testament, it says that we are God's temple individually. God lives in us as we believe in Jesus. And then together we're a corporate temple when we come together. That's why coming together once a week is an important thing, that we come together on Sunday and then on various groups, because we're coming together and we're experiencing God together. And it has a different dimension and dynamic to it that we need. And then we get to be part of the community, whether it's a group or a bigger expression, that we then become the corporate house of God, the temple. And God comes and is with us. And the way we're fashioning these Sunday morning meetings is that we're having a family meeting together. That we're becoming a community, a family, but with a great purpose. And so I'm not treating it like a normal church service. To me, it's a strategy time. To me, it's a meeting time. That we're coming together. And we're getting renewed and refreshed, and we're rejoicing, coming out of the mission field to get ready to go back into the mission field. The mission field is that we're going to be God's people and love a lot of people during the week and bring some back even next week. That's our mission, to be God's people in the city. We will learn how we can be and build together next week. Now, I wanted Chad and Rebecca to come, and I'd like you to listen to this. This is David's story, 2 Samuel, the whole 7th chapter. So you guys come and take a microphone each, however you're going to read together. I really would ask that you would listen to this. I'll make a brief comment on it, and then we'll have some prayer together.
After the king was settled in his palace, and the Lord had given him rest from all his enemies around him, he said to Nathan the prophet,
"Here I am, living in a palace of cedar, while the ark of God remains in the tent."
Nathan replied to the king, "Whatever you have in mind, go ahead and do it, for the Lord is with you." That night, the word of the Lord came to Nathan, saying, "Go and tell my servant David, this is what the Lord says. Are you the one to build me a house to dwell in? I have not dwelt in a house from the day I brought the Israelites out of Egypt to this